contest to everybody, and I would say as well, is still what I consider probably, even though it's not my favorite episode, it is the best episode of Seinfeld for sure in the whole series, by many. I personally will also say, I think The Deal, the season 2 finale, even though it wasn't the last episode to air, it was like fourth to last or something like that, I still gotta say this is one of the best episodes. Maybe at least top 10, top 5. Definitely one of the best ones. And also, I think, one of the best scenes in the entire series, which is that, like, very long opening scene with that exchange between Jerry and Elaine, like, in a form of, like, in, like, a business meeting, trying to come up with the ways to... They didn't say it in any way, but to me, it was basically them trying to become friends with benefits. And that was the main story of this episode. The reason why this happened, well, two things. First off, Castle Rock was pushing to have Jerry and Elaine back together as a couple again. They just thought that, them just being friends was starting to stretch it a bit. And they thought that, this relationship would be a little bit more interesting, and they actually dug into a little more of like a romantic chemistry and whatnot. Of course, eventually at the end, Jerry apparently Larry David said that Jerry went on tour, and he would say, do you want to see me with Elaine? And he'd be like, no. So the whole thing got dropped after, of course, the series got renewed for a third season. Which brings me to my second reason why this episode ended the way it did, is because Larry David thought the show was going to get canceled. He didn't see it, going on. So they kind of like ended again the season in a way that if this was the end of the series, it'd be like a satisfying ending with Jerry and Elaine kind of in this on again, off again type of relationship, whatever the heck it was. They kind of took that idea of putting Jerry and Elaine back together as a romantic couple, but twisted it a little bit to bring a little bit more of like a comedic side to it. With a real life experience Larry David once had, where he basically tried to make a deal with a close female friend of his, to basically just be friends with benefits. Have a sexual relationship, but they don't want to be committed to it. They still just want to be friends. Like I said, that opening scene, I think a lot of people think was one of the best scenes in the entire series, and I can agree. They had Jerry and Elaine in Jerry's living room trying to find something to watch, and they come across like a porno video or something like that. And it gets them talking. They both mention how it's been a while since they both have slept with someone, had sex. And it just gets them, thinking. Like, what if we did it again? What if we did it again? And they're just like, what's wrong with wanting to have that? And when they said that, they would point back towards Jerry's bedroom. So then they started discussing, well, if this would happen, we should come up with like a set of rules for this. And the Inside Look talks about how there was a lot of arguing over how to play that scene. Because originally, Julia Louis-Dreyfus thought she'd play it more like, sexually and whatnot. Like, ooh, how should we do this and whatnot? Like, get flirty. But instead, of course, to make it more of like a comedic side and show that this is just, just a deal to add something to a friendship without making it into a committed relationship. Treat it more like if it's like a business meeting, like signing a contract. And it felt that way. It didn't feel like there was like a romantic chemistry being built there, but it felt like, let's make this deal. And when they were walking to the bedroom at the end of the scene, it felt like, like the suspense of like, oh wow, they're going to do it, but it didn't feel like you were watching like a love story. So they basically came up with two rules, basically saying, taking this and add that. But this cannot be disturbed. So the two rules I believe they came up with was um, no calls the day after that, the day after they sleep together. Another rule was that spending the night was optional. And, they were just like, okay. And then they just walk towards the back room. Like, are you okay with this? Yeah. Scene ends. Cuts to the next scene, and it's in the morning. Kramer comes in with the paper. He's like, usually drop me off the paper. He's like, I'm sorry. But, of course, he looks over, and Elaine's walking out of the bedroom with the paper. So, obviously, Kramer kind of got the drift. And then Jerry goes out to lunch with George. They're just talking. And then Jerry just blurts out and says, I slept with Elaine last night, by the way. And George is like, oh, my goodness, I need oxygen. Okay, details, let's go. And Jerry's like, nah, I'm not really in the mood. And George says something like, I've got nothing to do right now. I've got no job. I got nowhere place to be. Well, you're not in the mood? Well, you get in the mood. So finally, Jerry's like, okay, fine. So basically, he mentions again that him and Elaine, again, mentions, how they got talking the previous night about, what if we had sex again? And, we worked out a deal where we could still just be friends. And George is like, no, he actually laughed about it. It's like, that sounds absolutely ridiculous. Jerry mentions the rules. The first one, George was impressed by. The whole idea of no calls the day after they do it. But then the second rule, he was turned off by the whole idea of them sleeping together. As time then went by, there was shown, obviously, there was some, there was a couple little, like loopholes, of course. In the one scene, Jerry was at Elaine's apartment. Obviously, it was implied that they did it, but Jerry wanted to get going. But Elaine was like, well, I want you to spend the night, though. And Jerry's like, spending the night is optional. I have a show tomorrow. She goes, I know, but we're at my place. Shouldn't I be able to pick, if it's optional or not or something like that? So that creates a little bit of tension. Starting, there's some cracks in this deal that they made. And then, of course, Jerry's fretting over what to get Elaine for her birthday because she doesn't want to give him something too romantic, but not something too cheap either. And, of course, he tells George, you can't get anything, better than me. You got to do is half as good as me or something like that. So, what does Jerry get Elaine? $182 in cash, which Elaine was completely upset about. Obviously, she wanted more from Jerry from that. And then the card, she was disgusted by the fact that it said to a wonderful girl, a great pal. She's like, you think I'm just your pal? Like, that's all I am to you? Kramer, though, comes in, and he says, oh, wait, Elaine, 1 second. He gets Elaine this bench she wanted that Jerry thought was a stupid idea, and the card quoted something from Yeats, and it really touched Elaine. And as everybody says in the cast, it was probably the most tender moment of the series. Like, this is not a series meant for, tender moments like that, but it's probably the most tender. And then, of course, obviously Jerry realized he was outdone. Him and Elaine sit on that bench, and, Jerry's like, maybe we should just go back to just being friends, and not even having that involved as, is ruining their friendship. Elaine's like, I don't think I can do that, though. She wants this, that, and the other. Meaning she wanted it to be an actual romantic relationship. But Jerry was like, I don't know about that. So then Jerry and George are chatting at Monk's again, and he was just like, basically saying he thinks it's over. He doesn't know if we're going to call her again. Probably not going to see her again, this and that. And then George is like, well, I guess I can't see her again also. Plus, she's mad at me also, because I got her. What'd you get her? $91. Again, the same. Going back to what Jerry said before about how you can't outdo me. You got to do at least half what I do. So Jerry gives her $182. George gives her $91. But then the scene ends with Kramer coming to Jerry's apartment saying that I'm looking for the paper. He gives it to him, and then turns around, and Elaine brings out the paper. obviously showing that her and Jerry made up and are kind of giving it a try again, basically. Um, and then as Kramer's checking the papers, what are you guys going to do today? And Elaine goes, this and that and the other, as Jerry says, implying that they basically are trying again as a couple. And then, of course, Kramer ends it by saying, boy, I really liked you better when you weren't a couple, and he walks out. Which, again, like I said, it was, again, Castle Rock executives wanted to put Jerry and Elaine back together. Larry and Jerry, though, thought, like, no, they wouldn't want to do that. But the only reason why they wrapped it up the way they did, like I said, season 2, Larry David's like, there's no way this show's going to go on. This show's going to get canceled. So they thought that'd be the appropriate way to have it end. And then they get the call saying they have 22 more episodes they're getting in season 3. And Larry's like, ah! So, yeah. So, the idea of Jerry and Elaine being a couple was never mentioned again after this episode. Except for in the pen. Because when they went down, well, that's in season 3, but when they went down to Florida, Jerry more so implied to his parents that they didn't think they worked as a couple and they were just friends, basically. So the whole idea about Jerry and Elaine becoming a couple was completely dropped after the deal. But yeah, that's it for the deal, and that's it for season 2 of Seinfeld. I mean, season 1 was only 5 episodes, season 2 was 13, so we're flying through pretty good so far. Season 3, of course, again, things will get better. Like the first 2 seasons, yeah, there was some good episodes, like, The Deal, The Revenge, The Heart Attack, the Bus Boy episode was great. I remember the Stakeout I enjoyed. The Chinese Restaurant, which I think was still a big hit or miss episode for the series. And several others that, again, were pretty good, but the best is still yet to come. But I feel like these last 3 episodes, we got a good taste of, the series evolving. You can feel that these characters are really coming into a groove these last few episodes. So, we'll see what happens when we get to season 3, which I look forward to, of course. I think the first episode is The Note. That's a good episode. I love that one. So, we'll talk about that next, guys. So, guys, what are your thoughts on The Deal episode of Seinfeld? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Be sure as always to slap a like on the video and subscribe for more content to my channel. And follow me on Twitter at DemandAirboy93. Till then, guys, I am checking out. Have a great night. I will see you all later. Peace out, everybody.